She didn't mean to say it out loud, but when Kiana's eyes dropped, just for a second, just long enough to see the truth pressing against the fabric of Sang-min's tailored pants, the words slipped out in a breathless whisper she couldn't take back. That's too big. The air between them stopped moving. Sang-min didn't laugh, didn't smirk, didn't rush. He just tilted his head, his dark eyes never leaving hers, and took one slow step closer. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his chest, close enough that her back pressed flat against the cool marble wall of his private penthouse suite, close enough that she forgot how to breathe. "Kiana." His voice was low, steady, the kind of calm that made dangerous men more dangerous. "Look at me." She did, and the way he was watching her, patient, hungry, controlled, made her knees weak. "I'll be gentle," he said softly, his thumb brushing the curve of her jaw. "I promise." Her pulse hammered in her throat. She wanted to believe him, she did believe him, but this wasn't just about tonight. It wasn't just about the way his hands moved slow and deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. It was about what would happen after. Because men like Sang-min didn't do casual, men like him didn't let go, and if she let him in, really let him in, there would be no walking away. Welcome to K-Stories by Emma. Before we continue, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any story. 6 months ago, Kiana hadn't even known his name. She'd only gone to the art show because her best friend dragged her there. Too many people pretending to understand abstract paintings, too much champagne, too much noise. And then she saw him. He stood at the back of the room, dressed in all black, his posture so still he could have been part of the exhibit, but he wasn't looking at the art. He was watching the exits. Kiana noticed that first, the way his eyes tracked every person who came in, every person who left, like he was calculating something. And then his gaze landed on her. Her breath caught. He didn't smile, didn't look away. He just watched, like he'd been waiting for her. An hour later, Kiana slipped outside onto the gallery balcony. She needed air, space, a break from the noise. She didn't expect him to follow, but suddenly he was there, silent, close. "You don't like crowds," he said. It wasn't a question. She turned, startled. "How do you know?" "You've been here an hour. You haven't spoken to anyone." Her pulse spiked. "Are you watching me?" "Yes." No smile, no apology, just the truth. She should have been creeped out, should have walked away, but something about his honesty kept her there. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked quietly. Kiana stared at him, at the sharp line of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes. And that's when she realized she wasn't afraid. That terrified her more than anything. Before she could answer, his phone rang. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor shifted. He stepped away, speaking rapid Korean into the phone. His voice was sharp, commanding, cold. This wasn't a businessman taking a work call. This was something else. When he finished, he turned back to her. "I have to go." And just like that, he was gone. The next morning, Kiana sat at her usual cafe, working on a design project. A black coffee appeared at her table. She looked up. No waiter, no one nearby, just the coffee. And underneath the cup, a business card. No name, no title, just a phone number. Kiana didn't call the number, but 3 days later, he showed up at her cafe. She was deep into a logo design for a boutique client when she felt it, that prickling awareness of being watched. She looked up, and there he was, sitting by the window, black coffee in front of him, laptop open. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her. He just existed. 2 days after that, she saw him outside her building, leaning against a sleek black car, scrolling through his phone like he had all the time in the world. When she walked past, he didn't say a word. Then it was the bookstore, the one she ducked into every Thursday after work. He stood in the poetry section, flipping through a book he clearly wasn't reading. Kiana's heart pounded every time, but he never approached, never spoke. He was just there, always watching, always close. It should have felt creepy, invasive. Instead, it felt like gravity. One rainy evening, Kiana left the cafe later than usual. She'd forgotten her umbrella, and the Seattle rain was coming down hard. She was about to make a run for it when an umbrella appeared over her head. She turned. Sang-min stood beside her, holding the umbrella steady. His expression was unreadable. "Take it," he said quietly. Before she could respond, he placed the handle in her hand and stepped out into the rain. Just walked away. No jacket, no cover. Just him getting soaked. Something inside Kiana snapped. "Wait," she called out, chasing after him. "Why do you keep showing up?" she demanded, breathless. "Why are you always there?" For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then quietly, "Because I can't stay away." Her breath hitched. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." That night, Tasha came over with wine and suspicion. "Girl, you need to be careful," she said, pouring them both a glass. "Men like that don't just show up everywhere. They're either obsessed or dangerous, maybe both." Kiana stared at her phone, the business card sitting on her coffee table. "I don't even know his name," she admitted. Tasha raised an eyebrow. "Then Google him." Kiana hesitated, then opened her laptop. She tried everything. Reverse image search using a mental picture of his face, the phone number on the card, keywords like Korean businessman Seattle. Nothing. Not a single social media profile, no LinkedIn, no Instagram, no digital footprint at all. It was like he didn't exist. "That's not normal," Tasha said, her voice tight. "People exist online. Everyone does." Kiana's stomach twisted. Who was he? Later that night, alone in her apartment, Kiana stared at the business card. Then she picked up her phone. She typed, "Who are you really?" Her thumb hovered over the send button. She pressed it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Her heart raced. The dots pulsed, once, twice, then they disappeared. No response. Kiana stared at the screen, her chest tight. And for the first time since she met him, she felt something cold creep into her stomach. Fear. He showed up at her apartment the next evening. No text, no warning, just 3 sharp knocks on her door. Kiana opened it, her heart already racing before she even saw him. Sang-min stood in the hallway, dressed in dark jeans and a black jacket, his expression unreadable. "Come with me," he said. Not a question, not a request. She should have asked where, should have demanded answers first. Instead, she grabbed her coat. They drove in silence. The city lights blurred past as Sang-min navigated through downtown Seattle, his hands steady on the wheel. He didn't look at her, didn't explain. Kiana's mind raced with questions, but something about the tension in his jaw told her to wait. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to the waterfront. The sound of waves hitting the pier filled the quiet as they stepped out of the car. The air smelled like salt and rain. Sang-min walked to the edge of the dock and stopped. Kiana followed, her pulse thrumming. For a long moment, he just stared out at the water. Then he spoke. "I'm not safe." His voice was low, controlled, but there was something raw underneath. Kiana's breath caught. He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her chest tighten. "If you're smart," he continued, "you'll stop letting me pick you up. You'll delete my number. You'll forget you ever met me." She stared at him. This was it, the out he was giving her. The smart thing to do was take it, walk away, protect herself. But instead of fear, all she felt was a pull. Deep, magnetic, dangerous. "What are you involved in?" she asked quietly. "Things you don't want to know about." That's not an answer. His jaw tightened. "It's the only one I can give you." Kiana took a step closer, then another. "Then stop showing up, Sang-min." His eyes darkened. "I can't." "Why?" "Because I've tried." His voice cracked just slightly. "And I keep coming back." The air between them felt electric. She should have been terrified, should have demanded real answers. But all she could think about was the way he looked at her, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Then don't lie to me," she whispered. "Whatever this is, don't lie." He nodded slowly. "I won't." On the drive back, Kiana noticed it. A black SUV, 2 cars behind them. It had been there since they left the waterfront. She glanced at Sang-min, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He'd noticed too. But he didn't say anything, and she didn't ask. 3 blocks later, the SUV turned off. Sang-min's shoulders relaxed just slightly. When they reached her building, he walked her to the door. His hand rested on her waist, warm and steady as if anchoring her. "Lock your door tonight," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why?" His eyes met hers, dark, serious. "Just do it, and don't open it for anyone." Kiana's pulse spiked. "Sang-min." "Please." The word hung between them, heavy with something unspoken. She nodded. He stepped back, his hand slipping from her waist, and as she watched him walk away, disappearing into the shadows of the parking lot, one thought echoed in her mind. What kind of danger am I walking into? It all came crashing down on a Thursday. First, her biggest client ghosted her. 3 weeks of design work, and suddenly they weren't returning calls. Then the rent increase notice showed up, taped to her door like a personal insult. $200 more a month she didn't have. And when she tried to call Tasha to vent, her phone died. Dead battery, dead career, dead broke. Kiana sat on the steps outside her building as the rain started to fall. She should have gone inside, should have cared. But she was just so tired. The rain soaked through her jacket, her jeans, her hair. She didn't move. Maybe if she sat there long enough, the world would just wash away. She didn't hear him approach. One moment she was alone, and the next, Sang-min was sitting beside her on the wet concrete steps. No umbrella this time, no questions. He just sat. Rain dripped from his hair, darkening his shirt. He didn't seem to care. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, deliberately, he reached over and took her hand. His palm was warm, steady. And something inside Kiana broke. She didn't cry, didn't speak, but her fingers tightened around his, holding on like he was the only solid thing left in her world. Because in that moment, he was. "Why are you here?" she whispered finally, her voice barely audible over the rain. Sang-min didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was rough, honest. "Because, when I'm not, I can't think about anything else." Her chest ached. She turned to look at him, rain streaking down her face. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "What does that mean?" His jaw tightened. "It means you don't deserve to sit out here alone. It means I can't drive past your building without checking if your lights are on. It means—" He stopped, exhaled. "It means I should stay away from you, but I can't." Kiana's heart hammered. Before she could respond, he stood and pulled her gently to her feet. "Come on," he said quietly. "You're soaked." Inside her apartment, Sang-min moved with quiet efficiency. He found a towel in her bathroom, came back, and carefully dried her hair. His touch was gentle, deliberate. Kiana sat on the couch, too exhausted to protest, too overwhelmed to think. "Lie down," he said softly. She did. He draped a blanket over her, then sat on the floor beside the couch, his back against the cushions. "You don't have to stay," she murmured, her eyes already heavy. "I know." But he didn't leave. The last thing Kiana remembered before sleep pulled her under was the warmth of his presence, the steady rhythm of his breathing. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through her windows. Sang-min was gone, but her door was locked from the inside, which meant he'd locked it on his way out and somehow left without unlocking it. Her phone, now charged and sitting on the coffee table, buzzed. One new message. She opened it, her heart pounding. "You're not alone anymore." Kiana stared at the screen, her chest tight. She didn't know whether to feel comforted or terrified. Maybe both. After that night, something shifted. Sang-min didn't disappear. If anything, he became more present. He'd text her in the mornings, simple things. "Did you eat? Coffee?" He'd show up at her cafe, working silently across the room, his presence a constant hum in her awareness. And every time their eyes met, the air felt thicker. Every accidental brush of hands felt deliberate. Every moment stretched too long. The space between them was becoming unbearable. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. Kiana was struggling up the stairs to her 4th-floor apartment, arms full of grocery bags that were cutting into her fingers. She'd made it to the 2nd floor when Sang-min appeared on the landing above her. "Let me help," he said, already reaching for the bags. "I've got it." He took them anyway, all of them. She followed him up the remaining flights, watching the way his shoulders moved under his fitted black shirt, the way he carried the weight like it was nothing. At her door, she fumbled for her keys. "Thank you," she said, turning to face him. He stood close, too close, and when she looked up, his eyes dropped to her mouth. Her breath caught. The groceries forgotten, the hallway forgotten, everything forgotten except the way he was looking at her, like he was starving. "Sang-min," she whispered. His jaw tightened. She watched him physically restrain himself, his hands flexing at his sides. "Why won't you kiss me?" The question came out before she could stop it. Raw, desperate. His eyes darkened. "Because," he said, his voice rough, "once I start, I won't want to stop." Her knees went weak. Then, don't stop. For a moment, she thought he'd break, thought he'd close the distance, and finally, but he just shook his head slowly. "You don't know what you're asking for." "Yes, I do. Kiana, I'm not afraid of you." "You should be." She stepped closer, her heart hammering. "Why? Because you're dangerous? Because you have secrets?" His breathing changed, got heavier. "Because once you're mine," he said quietly, "I won't let you go." The words hung between them, heavy with promise and threat. Kiana's hand came up to his chest. She could feel his heart pounding under her palm. "Maybe I don't want you to." Something in his expression cracked. He leaned in, his hand coming up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her bottom lip. This was it. She closed her eyes. His phone rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass. Sang-min froze, then pulled back sharply, his expression hardening into something cold and distant. He looked at the screen, his jaw clenched. "I have to go." "Sang-min!" But he was already moving, already halfway down the hall. "Lock your door," he called back. And then he was gone. Kiana stood there, breathless and aching, her hand still raised where his face had been. What the hell just happened? Hours later, she sat on her couch trying to focus on work and failing miserably. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. "Breaking, warehouse fire in Seattle's Chinatown district. No casualties reported. Authorities investigating possible arson." Kiana's blood went cold. She clicked the article, scrolling through blurry photos of flames and fire trucks. No names mentioned, no suspects, nothing. But she couldn't shake the feeling. The phone call, his expression, the way he'd left so suddenly. She opened her messages, typed, "Are you okay?" Sent. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. Kiana stared at her phone, her chest tight with a fear she didn't want to name. "Who are you, Sang-min? And what have you gotten yourself into?" He texted her 3 days later. "I need to ask you something. Can I come by?" Kiana stared at her phone, relief and frustration warring inside her. Fine. When Sang-min showed up, he looked different, tense, almost nervous. "There's a charity gala tomorrow night," he said without preamble. "I need you to come with me." Kiana crossed her arms. "Why?" "It's important." "That's not an answer." His jaw tightened. "Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't necessary." Something in his eyes made her hesitate. This wasn't a casual invitation. This was something else. "Fine," she said finally, "but you owe me an explanation." He nodded. "I know." The gala was held in a luxury hotel overlooking Elliott Bay. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, men in expensive suits with dangerous eyes. Sang-min had sent her a dress. Black, elegant, perfectly fitted. She'd almost refused it on principle, but when she saw herself in the mirror, she couldn't deny it made her feel powerful. When Sang-min picked her up, the look in his eyes told her he noticed too. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. She didn't respond. Inside the ballroom, Sang-min's hand settled on the small of her back, possessive and warm. He guided her through the crowd with practiced ease. Then it happened. A group of men approached, sharp suits, sharper eyes. They looked at Kiana with a curiosity that made her skin crawl. "Sang-min," one of them said in accented English, "you didn't mention you were bringing anyone." Songmin's hand tightened on her waist. "This is Kiana," he said smoothly. "My girlfriend." The words hit her like ice water. Girlfriend. The men's expressions changed, became less predatory, more respectful, and that's when Kiana understood. This wasn't a date. She was cover. She played along, smiled when expected, laughed at appropriate moments, let Songmin keep his hand on her waist. But inside, she was breaking. He'd used her, made her into a prop without even asking. It happened near the bar. Kiana stood alone for a moment while Songmin spoke with someone across the room. A man approached. Older, expensive cologne, predatory smile. "You're with Songmin?" he asked, his hand landing on her shoulder. Before Kiana could respond, Songmin was there. His hand shot out, gripping the man's wrist with enough force that the man's face went white. "Don't." Songmin's voice was deadly quiet. The man yanked his hand back, stepping away quickly. "My apologies." Songmin didn't acknowledge him, just took Kiana's hand and led her toward the exit. The car ride back was silent, tense. Finally, Kiana broke. "You used me tonight." Songmin's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Yes." "To look normal? To look safe?" "Yes." "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" He exhaled slowly. "I thought if you knew, you'd say no." "You're right, I would have." Silence. Then, quietly, "But you didn't just use me, did you?" Songmin's head turned sharply. "When that man touched me," Kiana continued, her voice shaking, "you looked like you wanted to kill him. That wasn't part of the act. That wasn't fake." His breathing grew harsh. "No," he admitted, "it wasn't." "You don't get to rehearse emotions you're not ready to feel, Songmin." He stared at her, and something raw and desperate broke across his face. Without a word, he changed direction. They weren't going to her apartment. "Where are we going?" she asked. His voice was rough when he answered. "My place." Kiana's heart slammed against her ribs. "Why?" "Because," he said quietly, "you deserve the truth. All of it." The penthouse was exactly what she expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, everything sharp and clean and expensive. But also cold, like a place where someone existed but didn't live. Sangmin poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. He didn't offer her one. Instead, he stood by the window, his back to her, silent for a long moment. "My family owns legitimate businesses," he finally said. "Import, export, real estate, restaurants." Kiana waited. "But that's not where the real money comes from." Her chest tightened. He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes was raw. "My father runs the Korean operations for a syndicate, has for 30 years. When he dies, it passes to me." The words hung heavy in the air. "I didn't choose this," he continued, his voice strained. "I was born into it, raised in it. By the time I understood what it meant, it was too late to walk away." "What does it mean?" Kiana asked quietly. His jaw clenched. "It means debts paid in blood. It means territory wars. It means people who would hurt anyone I care about just to send me a message." She felt the weight of those words settle over her. "Tonight," he said, "those men at the gala, they needed to see me as stable, settled, not a threat. If they thought I was vulnerable, they'd test me. So you used me as proof." "Yes," he didn't flinch from the truth. "And I'm sorry, but Kiana," his voice broke slightly, "if they knew how much you actually mean to me, you'd already be dead." The room went silent. Kiana's heart pounded in her ears. She should run, should grab her things and never look back. But all she felt was heartbreak. Not for herself, for him. For the boy who never got to choose his own life. For the man trapped in a world he couldn't escape. "I'm terrified of you," she said softly. Sangmin flinched like she'd struck him. "Not because you're dangerous," she continued, stepping closer. "Not because of what you do or who your family is." She stopped in front of him, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm terrified because I think I'm falling in love with you anyway." For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he moved. His hands came up to frame her face, his forehead pressing against hers. His breath was ragged. "Then we're both terrified," he whispered. And for the first time since she'd met him, Kiana saw fear in his eyes. Real, raw fear. Not of enemies or violence or death, but of losing her. He walked her backward slowly until her spine met the cool marble wall. His hand cradled her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "If we do this," he said, his voice rough, "there's no going back. You'll be part of my world. And that world will try to hurt me, I know." "Kiana." "I know," she said again, firmer this time. His eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She had none. "I'm choosing this," she whispered. "I'm choosing you." Something in him broke. His control, his restraint, the walls he'd built around himself. All of it shattered. "Then I'm yours," he said hoarsely. "Completely." Her breath caught. "Say it again." "I'm yours, Kiana, for as long as you'll have me." She pulled him closer, her hands fisting in his shirt. "Then show me." His eyes darkened with heat and promise. "Are you sure?" She looked up at him, this dangerous, broken, beautiful man, and nodded. "I'm sure." His kiss was different than she imagined. Slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the taste of her. Sang-min's hands moved with deliberate restraint, one cradling her face, the other sliding to her waist, pulling her closer. Kiana's back pressed against the wall, her heart racing as his body aligned with hers. She could feel everything, the heat radiating from his chest, the tension in his muscles, the evidence of his desire pressing against her stomach. Her breath hitched. And when her eyes dropped, just for a second, she couldn't stop the words from slipping out. "That's too big." The air stopped. Sang-min went completely still. Then, slowly, he pulled back just enough to look at her. His hand came up to tilt her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Kiana," his voice was low, steady. "Look at me." She did. His eyes were dark with need, but also something else. Patience, control, care. "I'll be gentle," he said softly, his thumb brushing her jaw. "I promise." Her pulse hammered in her throat. She wanted to believe him. She did believe him. "Okay," she whispered. He carried her to his bedroom like she weighed nothing, laid her down on sheets that smelled like him, clean, expensive, masculine. And then he took his time. Every touch deliberate, every kiss slow. He mapped her body like he was learning a language only she spoke. "Tell me if it's too much," he murmured against her skin. "Tell me if you need me to stop." She nodded, her fingers threading through his hair, but she didn't want him to stop. She wanted more. When he finally moved against her, filling her inch by careful inch, Kiana gasped. "Breathe," he whispered, his forehead pressed to hers. "I've got you." And he did. He moved with a control that made her ache, slow, steady, reverent. This wasn't just love, it was claiming, binding, crossing a line neither of them could uncross. And when she finally shattered in his arms, his name on her lips, she felt it. The shift, the irreversible change. She was his now, completely. Afterward, they lay tangled in his sheets, their breathing slowly evening out. Kiana's head rested on his chest, his arm wrapped around her, holding her close. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then, quietly, she asked the question she'd been avoiding. "What happens now?" Sang-min's chest rose and fell beneath her cheek. He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was rough. "Now," he said quietly, "I protect you." She lifted her head to look at him. "From what?" His jaw tightened. "From my world, from the people who would use you to hurt me." "Sang-min!" "Even if it means protecting you from me." Her heart clenched. "I don't need protection from you." "Yes," he said, his hand coming up to cup her face. "You do." There was something in his eyes, something that looked like goodbye. Don't, she whispered, her hand covering his. Don't push me away. Not now. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her back down against his chest, his arms tightening around her. Not tonight, he murmured into her hair. Tonight, you're mine. She closed her eyes, memorizing the feel of him, the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of his skin, because some part of her knew this moment wouldn't last. When Kiana woke, sunlight was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She reached across the bed, empty, cold. Her chest tightened. Then she saw it, a note on the pillow where he'd slept. She picked it up with shaking hands. Stay inside today. Trust me. Kiana stared at the words, her heart pounding. What's happening? Where are you? She grabbed her phone. No messages, no missed calls, just silence. And suddenly the penthouse felt less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. Kiana ignored the note. She had a client meeting, deadlines, a life that didn't stop just because Sang Men decided to be cryptic. So she got dressed, left the penthouse, and went to work. By noon, she felt it, that prickling awareness of being watched. She looked up from her laptop in the cafe and her blood went cold. A man stood across the street, tall, broad-shouldered, dark jacket. He wasn't hiding, wasn't pretending, he was just watching. Kiana's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. She dialed Sang Men. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? His voice was sharp. The cafe on Pine. There's a man. Don't move. The line went dead. Sang Men arrived in less than 5 minutes. Kiana didn't know how that was possible, didn't care. He walked through the cafe door like a storm, controlled fury in every step. His eyes found hers first, scanned her, checked for injury. Then they shifted to the window. The man across the street was still there. Sang Min's jaw turned to stone. He pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Korean, his voice low, clipped, deadly. Then he sat across from Kiana, never once looking away from the window. Sang Min, who is that? A message. Her stomach dropped. From who? People who want to test me. Test you how? His eyes finally met hers, and the cold rage in them made her breath catch. By seeing if you care enough about you to react. Kiana's chest tightened. And? They got their answer. That night, Sang Men didn't ask. He packed a bag of her things from her apartment, clothes, laptop, toiletries. What are you doing? She asked. You're staying with me. Sang Men, you're not going back there. His voice was firm, final. Not until this is handled. You can't just... He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes stopped her cold. Yes, I can. It wasn't a request. It was a fact. Later that night, unable to sleep, Kiana opened his nightstand looking for her phone charger. Instead, she found a gun. Black, heavy, real. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Don't touch that. She spun around. Sang Min stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You have a gun, she said, her voice shaking. Yes. In your nightstand? Yes. How many do you have? He didn't answer. Kiana set it down carefully. This is real. This is your life. I told you I wasn't safe. I know, but knowing and seeing are different things. Sang Men crossed the room slowly, taking the gun and locking it back in the drawer. I won't apologize for protecting myself, he said quietly, or for protecting you. Kiana stared at him. Then she made a decision. Then teach me. He frowned. What? Teach me how to protect myself. If I'm going to be in your world, I need to know how to survive it. Sang Min's expression shifted. Something between pride and pain flickered across his face. You don't know what you're asking. Yes, I do. He studied her steadily for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Okay, but we do this my way. Fine. And Kiana, his voice dropped. Once you learn this, you can't unlearn it. This will change you. She met his gaze steadily. I'm already changed. The training started the next morning. Sang Min cleared space in his home gym, mats on the floor, weapons locked in a case against the wall. First rule, he said, his voice all business. Always know your exits. Every room you enter, locate 2 ways out. Kiana nodded, trying to focus. But it was hard when he stood so close. his body heat radiating toward her. Second rule, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. He demonstrated how to spot a tail, the patterns, the repetitions, the subtle signs someone was following. Then came the physical training. If someone grabs you from behind, he said, moving behind her, his chest against her back, you have seconds to react. His arms wrapped around her in a mock hold. Kiana's breath caught. Break the thumb, he murmured near her ear. It's the weakest point. She tried to focus on his words, but all she could feel was him. Show me, he said. She twisted, breaking his grip like he'd taught her, but the momentum brought them chest to chest. Too close. His breathing changed. So did hers. Again, he said, roughly. They ran through the drill 5 more times. Each time they ended up closer, the tension thickening between them like a live wire. On the 6th attempt, when she broke free and spun to face him, something snapped. Sang Min's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Then he was kissing her. Hard, desperate, consuming. They fell back onto the training mat, his body covering hers, his hands in her hair. This wasn't gentle like their first time. This was raw, urgent, need stripped bare. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. You should hate me for this, he said hoarsely. Kiana shook her head, her hands fisting in his shirt. I should, but I don't. I've dragged you into a world where people will try to hurt you, where you have to learn to fight just to survive. I know. You should walk away. I won't. His forehead dropped to hers. Why? Because I choose you, sang Min. I choose this. All of it. His arms tightened around her, and for a moment they just held each other. That afternoon, while Kiana showered, she heard his voice through the bathroom door. He was on the phone, speaking Korean. She shouldn't have listened, but something in his tone made her freeze. He sounded desperate, pleading. She cracked the door open slightly, water still running. Take the shipment, all of it, and the territory. Silence as the other person responded. I don't care about the loss, just guarantee her safety. Kiana's chest tightened. He was negotiating, trading something valuable, for her. You have my word, she's off limits, completely. When he hung up, Kiana quickly shut the door, her heart pounding. Later, when she emerged, he was staring out the window. Everything okay? She asked, carefully. He turned, his expression neutral. Fine. That call earlier. Business. Sang Min, she stepped closer. What did you give up? His jaw tightened. Nothing important. Don't lie to me. I'm not. What did you trade for my safety? He met her eyes, and for a split second she saw the truth there. Pain, sacrifice, loss. Then it was gone, replaced by that careful mask. Nothing I can afford to lose. But Kiana knew, whatever he'd given up, it had cost him everything. Kiana woke to an empty bed. Again. But this time felt different. The silence in the penthouse was heavier, wrong. She reached for her phone. The screen lit up with a news alert. Breaking, Korean crime syndicate leader arrested in Seattle. Federal authorities raid warehouse in connection with organized crime investigation. Her blood turned to ice. She clicked the article with shaking hands, scrolling frantically through the text. No name, no photo yet. But a detail caught her eye. The suspect is believed to be in his early 30s, a key figure in the Korean-American organized crime network. Sang Min was 32. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She dialed his number. It rang once. Twice. Voicemail. She tried again. Nothing. Panic clawed at her throat. 3 hours later, the penthouse door opened. Kiana shot up from the couch, her heart in her throat. Sang Min walked in, looking exhausted but unharmed. Relief crashed over her so hard she couldn't breathe. You're okay, she gasped, crossing the room to him. I saw the news and I thought... It wasn't me. She stopped. What? He set his keys down slowly, his jaw tight. The arrest, it wasn't me. Then who? My brother. The words hung in the air. Kiana's mind raced. You have a brother? Had. Sangmin's voice was hollow. Jihoon. He's 25. I've kept him out of the business his whole life. I don't understand. Sangmin moved to the window, staring out at the city. My father wanted him trained, wanted him to take over operations in California. Jihoon didn't want any part of it, so He stopped, exhaled. I made a deal, arranged for him to get caught with just enough evidence to put him away for 6 months. White-collar charges, minimum security. Kiana's chest tightened. You set up your own brother? To save him, Sangmin turned to face her, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. When he gets out, he'll have a record. He'll be useless to the family. They'll leave him alone. So you let him take the fall? No, his voice was firm. I made sure he'd survive it. I have people inside who'll protect him. 6 months from now, he walks out free. Really free. And you? Sangmin's expression darkened. I stay. Why? Because someone has to, and if it's not me, it'll be him. I won't let that happen. Kiana felt her heart breaking. So you're trapped? Yes. Forever. He didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. He would never be free. That night they lay in bed, wrapped around each other. Sangmin held her tighter than usual, like he was afraid she'd disappear. If something happens to me, he started quietly. Don't, Kiana pressed her hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Don't say that. Kiana. No, whatever you're about to say, I don't want to hear it. His arms tightened around her. I need you to understand. I understand, she whispered fiercely. I understand that you're dangerous, that your life is complicated, that people want to hurt you, but I'm still here. I'm still choosing you. You shouldn't. Too late. He buried his face in her hair, and for the first time since she'd met him, Kiana felt him shake. Not from fear, from the weight of everything he carried, everything he'd sacrificed, everything he'd given up, for his brother, for her, for a freedom he'd never have himself. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. Sangmin's breath hitched. Don't, he said roughly. Don't love me. Too late for that, too. His grip tightened. Then God help us both. The ultimatum came 3 days later. Sangmin received the call at midnight. Kiana woke to find him standing by the window, his phone in his hand, his entire body rigid. What's wrong? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. When he finally turned to face her, his expression was carved from stone. They want me to step down. Kiana sat up, her heart racing. Who? The council. The families who run operations on the West Coast. His jaw tightened. They think I'm weak, compromised. Because of me. He didn't deny it. What happens if you don't step down? Sangmin crossed the room slowly, sitting on the edge of the bed. They come for you. The words settled between them like a death sentence. When? She whispered. Soon. Kiana's chest tightened, but she forced herself to stay calm. So what do we do? Sangmin took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. I can send you somewhere safe, somewhere they'll never find you. New identity, new life. You'd have to leave Seattle, leave everything. Leave you? His eyes met hers, and the pain there nearly broke her. Yes. And you'd what? Stay here? Keep fighting? It's the only way to keep you safe. By losing you? By keeping you alive. Kiana pulled her hand away, standing up from the bed. No. Kiana. I said no. You don't understand what you're refusing. These people don't negotiate. They don't forgive. If you stay. I'm not leaving, she said firmly, turning to face him. I'm not running, and I'm not forgetting you. Sangmin stood, his expression hardening. Then you're choosing war. No. She stepped closer, placing her hands on his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palms. "I'm choosing you." Something in him cracked. For 6 months, she'd watched him maintain control, watched him carry the weight of his world with careful composure, but now that control shattered. Sangmin pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. His face buried in her hair, his body shaking. "You're going to get hurt," he said hoarsely. "Maybe. You could die. So could you. Kiana. I love you." She pulled back just enough to look at him. "I love you, and I'm not leaving, so whatever happens next, we face it together." His hands came up to frame her face, his forehead pressing against hers. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," he whispered. "And the most foolish." "Probably." A broken sound escaped him, something between a laugh and a sob. "Then we fight," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "Together," she echoed. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and claiming, and when they finally pulled apart, something had shifted. This wasn't just love anymore. This was war, and they were in it together. The next morning, Sangmin made a call. Kiana listened as he spoke in rapid Korean, his voice cold and commanding. When he hung up, he turned to her. "It's done." "What is?" His eyes were dark, determined. "I told them no, and now we prepare." The war wasn't what Kiana expected. There were no shootouts, no dramatic confrontations, just quiet moves, strategic plays. Sangmin spent hours on the phone, speaking in Korean she couldn't understand. He met with people in expensive restaurants, his expression unreadable. He made deals she wasn't privy to. But he always came home to her. And slowly, she learned to trust the process, to trust him. 3 months later, something shifted. The tension that had lived in Sangmin's shoulders finally eased. The dangerous men who'd watched her from across streets disappeared. One night, he came home early. Kiana looked up from her laptop, surprised. "It's over," he said simply. Her heart stuttered. "What?" "The threat. It's handled." She stood, crossing to him. "How?" "Leverage, alliances. I gave them what they wanted without giving you." "What did you give them?" "Territory in California, a stake in 3 shipments, and my father's seat on the council." Kiana's eyes widened. "Your father agreed to that?" Sangmin's expression darkened. "He didn't have a choice. I made sure of it." She studied his face, looking for regret. Found none. "You gave up everything." "No," he pulled her close. "I gave up his empire, not mine, not ours." That's when Kiana finally understood. Love wasn't about safety. It wasn't about perfect circumstances or easy choices. It was about showing up, staying, choosing each other even when the world pushed back, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. 2 weeks later, Sangmin made dinner. Actual dinner, not takeout, not a reservation. He cooked. Kiana sat at the kitchen island, watching him move with surprising ease, and felt something warm settle in her chest. This was what she'd been fighting for. Not the penthouse, not the protection. Just him, just them. Just this quiet moment of ordinary life carved out of an extraordinary situation. "I have something to tell you," Sangmin said, plating the food. Her stomach tightened. "Okay." He set the plates down, then leaned against the counter. "I'm stepping back." "From what?" "The family business." He met her eyes. "Not completely, I can't walk away entirely, but back, far enough that I can build something else." "Like what?" "A life." His voice was steady, sure. "With you." Kiana's breath caught. "If you want that," he added quietly. Sangmin, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. Not a ring, a key. "Move in with me," he said, "not because it's safer, not because I'm trying to protect you, but because I don't want to wake up without you." Kiana stared at the key in his palm. 6 months ago, she'd met a stranger at a gallery, a man who watched exits, who appeared in her life like gravity, a man with blood on his hands and secrets in his eyes. And now, here he was, offering her a key, offering her a future. Yes, she whispered. The relief that crossed his face was devastating. He closed the distance between them, pulling her into his arms. I love you, he said against her hair. I should have said it sooner. You're saying it now. I love you, Kiana, completely. Tears pricked her eyes. I love you too. Later that night, they stood on the balcony overlooking Seattle. The city lights stretched out before them, endless and bright. Sang Min's arm wrapped around her waist, holding her close. It won't always be easy, he said quietly. I know. There will be moments when my past comes back. I know. But I'll protect you, always. Kiana leaned into him, the key still warm in her hand. And I'll stay, always. He pressed a kiss to her temple, and as they stood there, wrapped in each other, Kiana realized something. This love would never be simple. It would be complicated, messy, sometimes dangerous, but it was theirs, built on truth, on choice, on the decision to keep showing up even when it was hard. And that was enough. The end. Thank you for joining K-Stories by Emma for this incredible journey. If you loved this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means everything. Until next time, believe in love, fight for what matters, and never give up on redemption. This is Emma signing off.